All right. Good evening, everyone. This is the January 12th, 2022 meeting of the Auburn Conservation Commission. Please permit me to confirm that members are present and can hear me. So when I call your name, please let me know that you are here. Allison Holmes?
Here.
Okay. Catherine Nordberg? Catherine, are you there? All right, we'll get to Catherine in a second. Megan Langley?
Present.
Okay. Michelle Colross?
Here.
Patrick Cunningham?
Here.
And Catherine Nordberg. If you're there, Catherine, please unmute your microphone. Okay. She may have stepped away, but I have confirmed that we do have a quorum for tonight's meeting. I was notified by Tom Fallon, our vice chairman, that he would not be available to attend this evening. We also have town officials and employees participating, and when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Building Commissioner Caleb Moody.
Here.
And Land Use Clerk Ginger Butow.
Here.
Wonderful. So good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. This open meeting of the Town of Auburn Conservation Commission is now being called to order at approximately 7:01 p.m. This meeting is being conducted both in person and remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, that was extended on June 16, 2021. For this meeting, the Commission is convening either in person or by remote participation for the public. For the public to join the meeting remotely by telephone, please call 1-408-650-3123 and enter access code 942-845-549. Or the public can join via computer at gotomeeting.com/join/942-845-549. The remote access information has been posted on the town's website and identifies how the public may join. Also note that this meeting is being recorded by Auburn Cable Television for viewing at a later date, if you so wish. So, for those members of the Commission, employees, and or members of the public who are participating remotely, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and please take care not to screen share your computer, as anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. So, all supporting materials for tonight's meeting are available on the town's website. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. So I have some ground rules I'd like to go over for the meeting. First, as chairman, I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. I have a list of agenda items for this evening. After individuals who are scheduled to speak or appear this evening conclude their remarks, I will ask if members of the commission wish to have any comment or provide any comment, questions, or motions. And then please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. And then if there will be the occasion where there will be a dialogue, please wait until I yield the chair to you and state your name before speaking. And then for members of the public who wish to comment on any matters that are on tonight's agenda, please identify yourself by your name and your address only. And if we have any motions this evening or any vote on any matters this evening, I will do it by roll call vote. So having said that, the first item on tonight's agenda is a 7 p.m. public hearing, EBT Environmental Consultants, a notice of intent to construct a single-family house with associated utilities, driveway, and site grading at 54 Prospect Street in Auburn. Now, I understand from Ms. Butow that Mr. Kravosky, the consultant for the applicant, has requested to continue the public hearing. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and can you tell me when he would like to continue it to?
February 9th.
Okay, will that be at 7 p.m.?
Yep.
Okay, so is there a motion to continue the public hearing for EBT Environmental Consultants to February 9th at 7 p.m.?
I move the public hearing for EPT Environmental Consultants until our next meeting.
Well, actually, it's the meeting after that.
What was the date again?
February 9th.
I moved EBT Environmental Consultants to 2 meetings from now.
Okay.
February 9th.
All right, February 9th at 7 p.m. to be more precise, and that was a motion from Patrick. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is that Catherine?
Yes, this is Catherine.
Hello, Catherine. Very good. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, it's a vote.
Aye.
All right, it's a vote. The next item on our agenda is the 7:05 public hearing, Gold Star Builders, a notice of intent to construct a single-family house with associated utilities, driveway, and site grading at 63 Chestnut Ave in Auburn. Is there a motion to open?
So moved.
And that was Patrick. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and that was Megan?
No, it was me, Michelle Colorado.
All right, thank you. I think moving forward, since you're participating remotely, if you would just identify yourself beforehand, that would be helpful. Okay? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
All right, it's a vote. Is there anyone here on behalf of Gold Star Builders to present this application?
Sure, Nick Fasandola from Level Design Group. We proposed the application and we are the engineer of record for the site plan.
Yes, in fact, I think we continue this matter because we were waiting for the DEP to issue a file number, as I recall.
That is correct, and DEP has issued a file number, and with their notification, they had no comment on the application.
Okay, very good. Okay, and do you wish to add anything else, Mr. Fasandola, to your previous presentation?
I do not. The plan has not been modified since the previous public hearing, and we have no other information to add.
Okay. All right, thank you very
Can
much.
you summarize it a little bit for those of us that weren't there?
I'm sorry, was that you, Allison?
Yeah, just what is he proposing specifically? Can you just
Okay.
discuss it a little?
So, Mr. Fasandola, Ms. Holmes was not present at our meeting in December. Could you just briefly summarize the project?
Sure, but just for the record, will Ms. Host be voting on this matter? If she was not available, I just want to clear the record.
Ms. Holmes was not able to attend our December meeting. She is a member of the
Okay,
Conservation
understood.
Commission, sir.
Okay, no, I understand.
Okay.
Have you guys done a site walk that I missed as well?
The answer is we have. In fact, we've been out to the site on more than one occasion.
Okay, then I can abstain from this if that's the issue.
No, I'm more than happy to make a brief presentation. I just wanted to make sure there were votes being taken that the previous meeting was watched, the tape was listened to, and that the proper documents were signed. Just to make sure everything's in order.
So, Mr. Fasandola, you raise a very good point. Allison, I don't know if you had a chance to look at the video for our last meeting.
No.
Nope, have not.
Okay, so Mr. Fasandola, what we can do, assuming we do act on the application this evening, is that Ms. Holmes can abstain from the vote.
Not a problem.
Okay. All right.
So understood. Just want to make sure we have everything procedurally correct. But for the record, Ms. Holmes, the application is for the construction of a single-family dwelling at 63 Chestnut Avenue. We were in front of the Conservation Commission about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, for 65 Chestnut Avenue. I don't know if you participated with that public hearing. That was for a modification of an existing order of conditions, which is the property on the right side of the plan. That property was permitted about 6 years ago, and the wetland was delineated at that time. The order conditions has been extended multiple times, and that wetland line is being used on this application. The property identified as Lot 1, there was never a filing made when the original application was made, and that's why we're in front of the commission today. Both properties are owned by the same entity, Gold Star Building, and they'll be constructing them simultaneously to minimize site grading and other impacts to the property. Overall, it's a relatively straightforward proposal. Paved driveway in the front of the proposed single-family dwelling, walkout basement to minimize site grading, and then just a little bit of grading in the buffer zone to direct stormwater flow in the direction of where it naturally flows, which is towards the wetland. It's everything buffer zone disturbance. The house and driveway are fully outside the buffer zone. It's just site grading in the rear of the lot where we are having disturbance within the buffer zone, approximately 53 feet away from the edge of the BVW.
So, Mr. Fassendale, I do have a few questions. Will it be necessary for you to bring fill into the property?
There will be some fill required for this development. As you can see in the front of the property, there's some existing contour lines. The grade drops down within the first, say, 20 feet or so of the parcel. We are filling that area to the back of the proposed structure. As I said earlier, this is a walkout basement, so we're trying to work with the grade as much as possible. In order to do so, we are required to provide some fill.
How much fill, sir?
I don't know. Let's see if I have the exact number here. I mean, I don't have an exact quantity.
Well, sir, that's kind of important, actually. We'd like to know how much fill you're going to, because there is a not insubstantial drop-off from the street to the property. And let me ask you this. Is it your intention to bring fill so that you can reduce the steepness of the driveways for the two houses that are being proposed?
No, it's to provide adequate cover for a walkout basement. As you can see with the site grading, and the majority of the fill is located outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. As you can see, where that 100-foot buffer zone line comes through here. A majority of the fill is in the front of the lot, outside of the 100-foot buffer zone, in the front of the parcel. And then we're filling around the building, stepping down to elevation 801, which is approximately a foot above the existing grade of, 800 in the rear of the parcel.
And then that, I presume you're going to start construction in the spring, correct?
Yes, by the time final building permits and everything is in place, we were anticipating early spring.
And then how are you going to stabilize the fill that you're going to be bringing into the lot? Will you hydroseed it?
That is correct, yes. Once, goal is going to be to, essentially what they're going to do is they're going to enter the site, clear it, clear any vegetation, and then install the foundation, get the foundation installed, and then they'll backfill around the foundation and construct the driveway. Once the fill has been placed, it's a small property. We don't anticipate the work taking much more than a week and a half. It'll be immediately seeded once that work is completed.
Now, the houses are going to be serviced by town water and sewer, correct?
That is correct.
Have you done any deep hole tests? I mean, there's a pond, obviously, adjacent to the two house lots. Have you done any deep hole tests? Do you know if you're going to run into water when you start digging your foundation holes?
No deep hole tests have been dug at the property. Based on how the site will be constructed with the walkout style basement, we're not going to be a full 8 feet into the ground at the back of the property. We'll be, 4 feet or so below existing grade. There may be a requirement for dewatering at that point. But, we'll evaluate that at that time.
All right. Are there any other questions from the commission?
I actually have a question. This is Patrick.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Yep. So you mentioned dewatering if you require. Last meeting, there were several people in the public that were very concerned with how wet the parcel was actually going to be. Do you actively plan to do a deep hole test, or do you plan on just proceeding with digging 4 feet for your foundation holes and then kind of just dealing with it at the end?
Yeah, I mean, that's how the current property owner would like to approach the situation. Obviously, once they get the site, get equipment into there, the first thing we're going to do is dig a deep hole and then evaluate the site at that time. If things change, we would come back to the commission. Conditions were so poor, the structure needed to be modified, or we needed to provide some other type of drainage around the footing for building code. I believe that the questions raised by the abutters were more surface water related. And, the way the site's graded is everything is directed back towards the wetland and towards the pond. So we're not going to be sending surface runoff to any adjacent properties. It's all going to be going back towards the BDW, the way we have graded the site.
I have a question about the surface runoff.
Okay.
On my ad, it takes into it.
Excuse me. Who are you?
Kathleen Dion, I'm in a butter.
Ms. Dion, the way we do this is that members of the commission have an opportunity to ask questions. I will recognize you.
Sorry.
It's okay. I will recognize you when the commissioners have finished asking their questions. Okay?
Thank you. I apologize.
No worries. I appreciate that. Thank you. So, Patrick, do you have any other questions?
No. Thank you.
So, Mr. Fasandola, though, I'm going to...
Through the chair, can I add one item?
I'm sorry.
I dug up a calculation that we performed for both properties with regard to the amount of fill required.
Okay.
It's not specific to this property, but to both 63 and 65. Mm-hmm. And I calculated that to be approximately 1,100 cubic yards between both properties of fill. So I'm going to my records. I know I did a calculation for both lots, but I don't have a value for just lot one. I apologize.
All right. I mean, that strikes me as being a fair amount of fill. But Mr. Fasandola, I do have another question. Isn't it, rather than, you've just pretty much admitted that you don't know if you're going to run into problems with water once you start digging the foundation holes for these two houses. Wouldn't it be in your best interest to find out what the conditions are at the property before you start digging? Then start digging, find that you do have a potential dewatering problem, and then have to come back and see us?
Well, the dewatering would be a temporary construction measure. As I said, these are walkout basements.
I understand that, sir.
The bottom of the basement floor is 1 foot above existing grade right now in that back area.
All right.
So it would be a temporary condition, and we would address that during construction. just get the frost wall in for the walkout portion of the basement. The remainder of the foundation is going to be primarily in fill, as shown by the grading on the plan. I hope that clarifies the long-term aspect of the siting of the building and the foundation.
All right, I understand. Thank you. Are there any other...
This is Allison. I have a question.
Actually,
okay.
Allison, before you go, this is Michelle. Could we just try and fix some of the back feet a little bit? All I can hear is kind of like double words.
All right, so
It's
really...
very echoey.
It should, well, the problem is that when there are multiple people on who are not muted, you get the reverb or the feedback. So in looking at this, I see, so I think what it should be is that when any two people are speaking, those are the microphones that should be on. Everyone else should be muted. Because
You may be able to mute them yourself. Someone who's controlling this should be able to anyway.
Mike, you're in the room with the speaker, right?
I am, and I have the ability to mute people. So
No, I think it's the feedback, the feedback from the speaker coming into your microphone.
okay.
Is that any better?
Yeah, I could do that too. So I'll tell you what, why don't we do this? I think Allison has a question. Michelle, I take your point. I'm going to mute my microphone, and then Allison, why don't you ask Mr. Fasendola the question that you have, okay?
Thank you.
Sure.
So my question is, we're going to bring in a bunch of fill, and this two lots are going to be somewhat unstable. And I know there's a stabilization plan. At least I would assume there is one. Can you tell me just where this dewatering water is going to be headed towards, and where that's going to go in relation to the loose soils and the wetlands?
If we were required to dewater, we would bring in a sediment bag, and it would be, a very temporary situation, solely to excavate out likely the back portion of the foundation. We'd have a sediment bag, and we'd set that in the back of the lot outside of the buffer zone, and then that would drain overland towards the back of the lot and in the direction of the BBW. But, we wouldn't just be pumping out of the hole. It would be through a sediment bag.
It's got to go on vegetated land, though. Are you going to have any of that available?
There will, we can...
The flow can't just go over loose soil. It has to be...
No, definitely not. No. We would just place the sediment bag in the back of the property, and I'll notify the contractor to leave the rear of the parcel undisturbed for the most part until they can get this foundation in, and we can evaluate the groundwater characteristics within the foundation hole.
Okay. And that would be outside of the buffer zone? At least the 25-foot no disturb zone?
Oh, it would be outside the 100-foot buffer zone. As we stated before, there's only site grading going on in the 100-foot buffer zone, and that's only within the 50 to roughly 50 to 100-foot part of the buffer zone. So there's a large swath of natural vegetation between us and the edge of the BVW currently.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions from members of the board? There being none, Ms. Dion, would you like to comment on the application?
Yes, okay.
And
My concern is...
Ms. Dion, before you start your remarks, can you tell us where you live, please?
I live on 61 Chestnut Avenue. I abut the E3 property.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
My concern is when they bring the fill in and when they grade it, how are they going to slope it towards my property? When we dug supports for our blueberry bushes, we hit water, and that would be right on the property line. And I'm wondering if that, I just don't want it to add more property or have water flowing to my property.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fasandola, do you have a response to that, that concern of Ms. Dion's?
We'll be tying the grades back as quickly as possible off the building foundation. As you can see on the, we'll call it plan left, on the left side of the proposed dwelling, we have an existing water line easement right through there. So as we're tying the contours in, they're essentially going to form a swale. You can see that 801 contour where that's being tied in. That's essentially forming a V, a small swale channel, and that will then continue up and around the building to the 800 contour that we're pulling into the site a little bit to direct the water towards the wetland. So there's it's a very small area through that area between the house and the property line. So we're tying the contours back as quickly as possible and looking to keep a section between the property line and that grading at least 8 to 10 feet or so undisturbed between both properties, so we can kind of keep some of that natural vegetation through there. So as you can see, we're tying those contours back as quickly as possible and leaving about 8 to 10 feet as closest point near the roadway of net, undisturbed area between the two properties.
How high do you estimate the elevation to be?
So the top of the structure is going to be about elevation 809. So that's about, if you're in the center of the property after that drop off, it's 8 feet above that. That's like the top of the concrete of the structure. If you're standing at the roadway, the elevation is, roughly, it's 805. So if you're at the roadway before the property that drop off occurs, you're just going to climb up 1 foot, 2 feet, to 807. That's where the elevation of the garage is, the garage entry, and then the building will be a couple feet higher than that. So it's only about a 4 foot difference, I'd say, from street elevation. That's where you're referencing it from. If you're referencing from the middle of the backyard, then it's going to be about 8 feet.
Are you going to be taking out the existing water line that's there, the old one that's not being used, or are you going to be filling over it?
Within the water line easement?
That the existing water line that was there that's not being used, will you be putting fill in on top of that?
I am not aware of what you're speaking of. Water line being, there's a water line other than the water
I don't know whether it was a water line or a sewer line. The original one to the house behind us, to Mario's house, abutted our property.
Correct. There's an existing water line easement that feeds that property that you just referenced, and that will remain in place. We'll just be adding some material on top of that. The sewer line easement is on the property to the right, which is 65 Chestnut Street. That sewer line comes up and goes around the back of this property. But
right, yes, and I guess my question is, you said you're going to be adding soil on top of it, and that would be the elevation that would affect my property. About how much soil do you anticipate adding on top of that to grade it?
On top of where? You have a specific area? It's not all...
That would be the whole adjacent side, the side that abuts my property. I'm wondering how you're going to leave the finished grade.
The property, the grade of your property isn't going to change. There'll be a slope which extends from the side of the foundation of the building. Be a 3-to-1 slope. We're tying that back as quickly as possible. And then, as I previously stated, we're leaving 8 to 10 feet of undisturbed area between where we're working and the property line. So there'll be we're not cutting and clearing everything right to the property line. We're going to leave a little bit of a buffer. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but the lot is very narrow. So we're doing what we can to preserve some natural vegetation along your property line.
Okay. So you're saying it will be at least 8 to 10 feet from my property line?
Correct. From where we're going to be digging, yes.
Okay.
It doesn't make any sense. They're going to raise the property line somewhere. They're going to taper the
Excuse me, Ms. Dion, are you done with your questions?
Yep, yes.
All right, thank you. I believe there is someone in the audience here who would like to speak. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
And can you identify yourself by your name and your address, please?
Jerry John Mario, 21 Oxford Street North.
Why don't you go up to the speaker?
Area here.
Right.
Right here?
Yeah. So we can hear you.
Okay.
Okay. So go ahead.
Okay. I've been here last several meetings. I live at 21 Oxford Street North, so I'm the adjacent abutter
Right.
to both lots, the 63 and 65.
You're on the other side of the pond.
Correct. I am at the, right where that now says.
Yep.
Okay.
So my plight has been consistent all along. It's been the drainage issue, the fact that the front of my property, which would be the backyard of 63 and 65 for that matter, but we're talking about 63, already has significant standing water in it in the spring.
Okay.
And that's at a grade of 798. And we're bringing in, we're going to a finished grade of, again, 8 feet above that. So my question again is, where does all the water go? And if it doesn't go to my front yard and it goes to my pond, then, I mean, how does the commission feel about?
Seriously, is that your pond or is that owned by, who owns that?
I own
pond?
it.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. So
now you're adding water to my pond. I mean,
and it's untreated is your point.
that's my point.
So Mr. Fasandola, do you have a response for this gentleman?
Well, the water that's going towards the pond has always been going towards the pond. It's been running off this property. It's been coming off of Chestnut Avenue. The pond is a drainage catchment for the larger area, not just the butter's property per se. Mm-hmm. This whole area drains to that pond and towards that wetland, and towards that resource area.
Right.
Now, you stated that area does flood, and yeah, I guarantee it does have standing water up along the edge of the wetland line, which is, I'd say, elevation based on our contours, 796. But even if your statement is true that the water ponds to elevation 798, we're not impacting any of the grading or filling any area within that 798 contour worst case scenario fill or flooding area. So we're not taking any of that storage away. So the water is still going to be able to accumulate there and not have any negative impacts towards your property.
So let me ask you, have you consulted with an engineer or done any sort of analysis on this?
I have an engineer on the phone
You do?
tonight.
And who's that?
Victoria Massoni of VM Consulting Engineers.
Okay. Ms. Massoni, are you present?
I am here, yes.
Okay.
Can you all hear me?
I can hear you just fine. And so anyway, can you address this gentleman's concerns about what impact this may have on his property?
Certainly. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Mario at 21 Oxford North. So I have some comments of my own. He asked me to review the plan. I'm a certified engineer in Massachusetts for environmental civil. I reviewed the plans and I have a number of comments. So I don't know where you'd like me to start, or if you'd just like me to read my comments and then maybe address them or give the applicant an opportunity to address them.
Is it Mario?
Mario's my last name.
Okay. So, well, when we do it this way, so Ms. Massoni, why don't you tell me, Massoni, what impact will this project have on Mr. Mario's property?
I think looking at the application and the plans and the documentation, there's a lot of missing information that we need to make that determination.
Okay, why don't you tell us what that is?
Certainly. Well, first, in reviewing the elevations, there's some glaring typos, I guess, in the elevations that I'm having trouble interpreting. Some behind number 65, the contour says 879, then it goes to 800. So just at first looking at these contours, I see some mistakes, and so it's hard to really understand the contours. I have been to the site, but that's just my first comment, is the plan needs some revision, in my opinion.
All right.
On that. I'd also be interested.
Those might be typos then, though, right?
Yeah, I'd have to ask the engineer who prepared it.
Yeah, those look to be like typos. Those should be 7 in the 700s. Yeah, we can update that. For the record, it looks like those contours that this consultant's referring to are on 65 Chestnut Avenue, for the record.
One does travel over into 63.
Okay, Ms. Missoni, why don't you continue, please?
Sure. It's Missoni, and my next question would be, have any drainage calculations been provided for this project? It's adding a significant amount of impervious area to this lot. So land that used to take water is not going to take water anymore between the building and the pavement. So has there been drainage calculations done on this project?
Drainage calculations have not been done, as Ms. Missoni is aware. DEC stormwater standards do not require stormwater management for the development of a single-family dwelling as the situation. As far as a full stormwater report, typically not standard practice to do so for a single-family dwelling. And the statement of a significant amount of impervious area, I'd like to throw out that, we're probably 2,000 square feet of impervious area, which is very minimal. These are very modest-sized homes with small driveways. This home, lot 63, is located fully outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. All we are doing is we have some grading activity within the commission's jurisdiction.
Ms. Missoni, any other comments?
Yeah, so I am aware that it's not required, but my question is, has the commission asked? Because they certainly can ask for drainage when the neighbors are expressing concern. My next comment is, I'm somewhat concerned that the wetlands delineation was done in 2014.
No, it was done more recently than that. We actually, this came before us, before this building project, we actually approved the wetland line, I'd say probably maybe two years ago. But so I take your point, but we have been out to the site multiple times, and we looked at the property before this project was filed with the town.
Okay, just in looking at the plan's notes, it leads me to believe that it was 2014, so I apologize.
Well, that's
if
okay.
It's been retracked.
It's okay. I mean, the reality is that based on this is, the wetland is clearly delineated in this case because it's the pond, and more or less. And when we went out there, we were satisfied with the way the wetland or the bordering vegetative wetland had been demarcated. So let me ask you something more specific. I understand you have comments, but can you provide us with information, or do you have any evidence that that suggests that this site will have an adverse impact on Mr. Mario's property, or will result in maybe a deteriorated condition of the pond?
I think in order to figure that out, there would have to be some drainage calculations performed, and potentially, ask the applicant for a mitigation measure to replace some of the impervious surface that he's creating.
Okay, I take your point. Any other comments?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Through the chair, if I may, just make
Yes, please.
just a couple brief comments for the applicant and the abutter. This project will require a land disturbance permit through the engineering department, and at that point, they may ask for stormwater calculations, and if anything that's required under the stormwater permit produces changes, they would have to come back before the commission for those changes.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So, Mr. Fasendola, it appears that you may need to do drainage calculations even though you don't want to, number one. Secondly, I take your point about this being, that it's not required for a single-family dwelling, except that in this case, there are two single-family dwellings on a relatively small parcel of land, and the combined impact, I think, to my mind, and I'm just speaking for myself, probably suggests that drainage calculations be performed. Again, I'm only speaking for myself.
Well, respectfully, through the chair, this application is for 63 Chestnut Avenue. We have an approved order of conditions for 65 Chestnut Avenue.
I understand, sir. Okay.
These concerns were not raised at the time. If we wanted to look at this as a single project, even if this was a two-lot development, it still wouldn't trigger the requirement under current state standards for stormwater management.
Sir, except that, sir, we have our own bylaw and our own regulations, and I think respectfully, if we wanted to have drainage calculations done, I believe we can. And what you've heard is an abutter who's hired or retained an engineer who has raised certain concerns. And I would tend to think that you would want to address those concerns before you begin building, number one. Secondly, Mr. Moody has indicated that because you're bringing in 1,100 square feet of material to basically build up the lot so you can, so you can install your foundations for both buildings, you may be required by the building department to do drainage calculations anyway. So if you're faced with the inevitability of having to do those calculations, it just seems to me that maybe rather than wait for them to make that decision, that you go ahead and do it now. Again, that's just my observation, and I take your point that you're not required to do it.
And when we apply to the building department, we will comply fully with all the requirements for a building permit as deemed fit for the import of material, for the land disturbance. We will comply with those items. But just to circle back on the abutter's consultant's concerns, I mean, in my opinion, that no concrete concerns have been raised. Some typos were pointed out on the plan of contour labels, which have no bearing on the overall design, and some vague statements regarding impacts to the wetlands have been made. Now, if the consultant would have produced their own drainage calculations showing an adverse effect to the abutter's property and presented those to the commission, then I think the commission should take that seriously. But coming in and just making broad statements at a public hearing, just because you're a professional engineer, I don't think that's a proper way to handle this. If they're going to come in with calculations and document an adverse effect to the property, I would understand if the commission then chose to have further action on this matter. But being that we're working with general statements that there will be an impact not quantified by the abutter consultant, I don't think that's fair to the applicant to entertain those items currently.
All right, your point is well taken, sir. Mr. Mario, do you have any other comments?
Just one other comment. With respect to 65, I know that's not what's under question, but there was some comments about that there was no issues sort of raised from the abutters. That's how I took it when 65 was passed. Well, 65 was passed while I was an escrow to buy that property. So the abutter was the person selling me my property. So there was, at that point, in that March of 2014 was when 65 was
Okay.
was brought through. So I'm just saying if there's concerns over why none of these concerns have been brought up until this matter, that's the reason why.
All right.
So that's
Gotcha.
all I had. Thank
All right,
you.
thank you. So, Mr. Fasandola, is it your intent to close the public hearing this evening?
We would like to, based on there being no concrete evidence of adverse impacts and that we comply fully with state standards and the Wetlands Protection Act for the minor disturbance site grading within the 100-foot buffer zone. Stating the facts, the proposed dwelling is outside of the buffer zone. The proposed driveway is outside of the buffer zone. We are doing grading activities within 50 to 100 feet of the identified and approved bordering vegetated wetland line.
Okay. So if it's your intention to close a public hearing, I will consider a motion to close a public hearing. Is there a motion?
So moved. It's Pat.
Okay. Is there a second?
A second, Megan.
Thank you, Megan. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor of closing the public hearing for 63 Chestnut Avenue signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, it's a vote. All right, Mr. Fasandola, thank you for your presentation. We have 21 days to issue our decision. My hope is that we can get to it tonight, but I don't know if we will or not. So I thank you for your participation this evening, and you'll hear from us.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. And if the commission cannot get to it this evening, we understand, and we can offer an extension to issue the order if needed.
Appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mario.
Sure.
Appreciate you coming in. The next item on our agenda is a 710 public hearing. Mike Pham, a notice of intent to construct a driveway at 92 Tinker Hill Road in Auburn. Is there a motion to open?
This is Michelle. I'll move to open.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
And that's
Pat.
Patrick, okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right, it's a vote. Mr. Pham, I see you're there.
Yes, Chairman.
Now, Mr. Pham, I understand that you submitted something to us yesterday, or Mr. Sadowski did on your behalf?
Yes, well, what happened was when I filed the notice of intent, I accidentally checked off the box where it says I was going to disturb 26 square feet of BBW.
Mm-hmm.
So we filed the notice of intent with a Mass DEP to state that we were just going to work inside the buffer zone, like I stated on the last meeting.
Uh-huh.
And Judith Smith did reply within the hour accepting the change, and she did reply that she had no further comment.
We actually have a policy. We don't like last-minute submissions, and in fact, I think we have a bylaw, or one of our, I forget if we did an addendum, but we actually don't have to consider documents that are submitted less than 7 days before our public hearings. And I know we went out to the site, oh boy, that was before the December hearing.
Yeah, it was right before your last
But we
meeting.
actually didn't walk the site. And I think out of fairness to everyone, and given the fact that this was submitted, and I understand, mistakes happen, and that's understandable. And I was actually, I guess, surprised that DEP reacted so quickly. I still think it's probably better for us to actually take a walk. I mean, my memory is that the proposed house is way in the back of from Tinker Hill Road. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So I think just because we really didn't have the opportunity to walk it the last time, it makes sense to me that we should have the opportunity to do so. And I certainly recognize that there was no snow on the ground in December. There is some snow now, although I'm hopeful it will dissipate within the next couple of weeks. So again, speaking solely for myself, my preference would be to continue this matter to our next public hearing, which will be on January 26th, in the hope that we'll be able to get out there make an appointment with you to actually walk the site so that the next time this matter comes up for consideration, we can have a quick hearing.
Okay, sir.
Is that agreeable to you?
Yes.
Okay. And so, Ginger, what would, on 126, what time could we schedule Mr. Pham for?
Mike, for 7:05.
7:05, okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Is there a, okay, so is there a motion to continue the public hearing for 92 Tinker Hill Road to January 26th at 7:05 p.m.?
Make a motion to move 92 Tinker Hill Road, notice of intent to January 26th.
Okay.
Oh, he's the first, actually, sorry, he's the first one, so
Oh, make it at 7 p.m.
7, yeah, sorry.
That's okay, so it'll be 7 p.m. instead on the 26th. Is there a second?
This is Michelle. I'll second that.
Thank you, Michelle. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
I'm sorry, I just had a discussion point real quick.
I'm sorry, Allison, is that you?
This is Megan.
Oh, I'm sorry, Megan.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. You sound alike.
Yeah, had we asked, if I'm right, I was thinking that we had asked for an alternative plan at the last meeting, and I didn't see that in this packet.
For what, for 92 Tinker Hill Road?
Yeah, maybe I'm totally wrong.
I don't recall asking for that.
Okay, well,
I didn't
never mind.
think there was anything that, for example, and maybe you're correct. I wasn't certain that any of the work that was being considered by Mr. Pham would require us to give a waiver of the 25-foot no-build zone.
That is correct, Chairman. I would, the driveway, the edge of the driveway after the grading would be 17 feet from the BBW, and because of the hammerhead lots, planning board required me to go through the frontage of the lot, or else it won't be considered as a hammerhead.
All right, so in fact, you are proposing to do work that will require a waiver?
Yes, sir.
So I think, Megan, good catch there. I think you probably need to provide us with an explanation why you can't construct your road outside the 25-foot. I don't think it has to be particularly detailed, but I think she's right in that you do have to provide us with some sort of explanation, okay?
Okay.
And you can do that and submit that to us before our next meeting on the 26th. All right, so anyway, thank you, Megan, again. All those in favor of continuing the public hearing to January 26th at 7 p.m. signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye, it's a vote. Okay, Mr. Pham, thank you, sir. We'll see you in 2 weeks, and actually, with any luck, we'll see you before the next meeting, and we'll try to get out to the property and notify you so that we can do a site walk with you again.
Thank you, Chairman.
All right, thank you, sir.
Bye.
Good night. Next matter on our agenda is a 7:15 public hearing, EBT Environmental Consultants to amend an existing order of conditions for 261 Prospect Street. Is there a motion open?
So moved, it's Pat.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second
Catherine? Oh, sorry.
Okay, who wants it? Neither one, okay. Catherine, can you second, please? All right, thank you, Catherine. You'll get extra credit. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right, it's a vote. Is Mr. Kravosky available? Ginger?
He should be here for this one. He didn't tell me he wasn't going to be here for this one.
Okay. Well, he's not on.
He only said he wasn't going to be here.
Here.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Is Mr.
I just unmuted myself.
Aha.
I've been listening.
Aha. So you are the mysterious caller number 3?
Yes, I'm listening to a hearing going on in Charlton, and I was just going back and forth from phones. Thank you.
All right.
Up over there.
All right. So
Thank you.
Good evening, sir. So why don't you tell us what you wish to amend?
Thank you, sir. We're still proposing the same house on this lot. This would be if you're standing on Prospect Hill. This was the lowest spot.
and we're proposing a garage. Mr. Rick Hill of Hill Concrete is going to be buying this, and he would like a garage behind the existing home. And so we asked for an amendment to allow for this garage. And it's shown on your plan. If it's on your screen, I'm on the phone. Sorry, I'm not on your screen.
No, it's okay. I have a copy of the plan. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, Summit Engineering did the plan. It shows the post grading. We keep outside your 25-foot zone. We're just touching. In fact, the garage is outside the 50-foot zone, and there's some grading between 25 and 50. We show through Summit the original erosion control line in red, if you're looking at a colored plan, and now the new line just varies a bit from the red to the proposed, which would be blue. So behind the garage, or to the southeast, there's a bump out to allow for an extension off the proposed garage. The proposed garage is within the red. I mean, the bulk of the garage, but you'll see a little extension that extends to the rear, with the wetland is not the rear.
Right. So what?
This will be on a slab. It'll, foundation, footing, or should I say, it'll be a footing, but there won't be any cellar to it. And we do propose a Caltech unit with recharge. And that be the case, we always give you recharge on our. We'll always give you recharge on it. You'll see the house has recharge and the garage has recharge. That's the project. Thank you. I did have Mr. Bill stay. I'm not sure the commission had a chance to look at it, but if not, a site inspection, possibly. Hello?
Hi, we're here. I'm still looking at the plan for 225 Prospect Street. So it extends further out than what it had been before. Does the construction of the garage bring it any closer to the resource area?
Within the 25 to the 50, the very back of the garage,
right,
that's road facing in, mm-hmm, that blue line is the change from what is proposed to what is presently permitted. Right. So the red line, which goes through the back of the garage, is what's permitted for alteration, and what's proposed is that bump out from the red to blue.
I understand. Okay. And your representation is that will have no impact. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's why we're also putting that groundwater back, that surface water from the garage, the water that drains the garage back into that 1 inch and 24.
Okay. All right. I think I have it. Are there any questions from the commission for Mr. Kravosky?
Yes. This is Michelle. Why did this need to be done?
Mr. Hill wants to park vehicles. He has antique cars. Originally, it was a single-family house, and he wants to move from Spencer to Auburn, and he has his own construction business over there at Boulder Industrial Park off of 20 Oxford, and he would like a garage on his property.
Okay, so it's just to enlarge the garage?
It's a proposed garage to the rear of the existing home.
So there wasn't a garage before. I don't have the original plan. So it's adding a garage?
It's a detached garage right to the rear property, and the driveway, which is already permitted. The house is permitted. He will be running. Not the driveway is on the opposite side of the home from the wetland, and the driveway just continues to the rear. And this is the proposed detached garage.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the only change really is the bump
Can
out.
I say this? If I send a PDF potentially to all commission members, and I do love and care about Ms. Buteau, but if you had maybe seen this, it would be our pleasure to always make sure that everybody has at least a PDF copy of this or anything else I submit.
Well, wait. So,
This is Allison. I have a question.
go ahead, Allison.
Are there going to be any floor drains installed in this garage? Is it going to be like...
No. It's a surface garage. He has his own a concrete business. He has his own garages at Boulder Industrial Park. This is for his private single-family house. Again, he has antique cars that he stores, that he owns, and he's proposing to use it for that.
Gotcha.
Any other questions from the commission?
The restoration area stays the same?
Yes, there's no change. That was for the sewer line that's already road, and it was shut off at that location. And so we restored that wetland in place as the requirement for sewer line wetland. Same elevation as before. It was planted by Gary Pike and Mr. Koza, who was part of this original parcel. And that sewer line is already installed. Under.
Great.
Any other questions? Is there any comment from the public? There being none, is there a motion to close?
So moved. It's Pat.
All right, Pat, is there a second?
Allison.
All right, Allison by second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All right, it's a vote. All right, Ms. Kravosky, we close the public hearing. You'll be hearing from us. Sorry.
Good, very, very good. Thank you, and good New Year. I haven't talked to any of you since yes. Again.
Happy New Year to you too, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Goodbye. Okay. So, for other business, we have a number of requests for certificates of compliance that we have to make site walks for. They include a request by Azem Mohammed for 23 Brook Street, Ecotech for Whitman Bailey Drive, SWEB Development seeking an extension of the order of conditions for 430 Rochdale Street. Is there anyone from SWEB listening? Not that I would expect them to. Ginger, do you know what that's about? SWEB? SWEB Development is looking to extend the order of conditions for 430 Rochdale.
They were told. So they're looking to extend it. I don't know why they're not here.
Okay, did they submit a formal request?
Mm-hmm.
When does the order of conditions expire, or has it already? If you know.
I don't know.
Okay.
It expired October 25th.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
I think
You beat me to it, Jack.
You guys are like the eager students in the class. Thank you very much. So that you said.
No, they can have the
Let's
credit.
All right. So actually, the order's already expired.
okay, yeah. So they would have already expired, and then they were ones that were carried because of COVID.
Right. Carried because of COVID.
Yeah.
All right. Do I have that?
You should have it. Yeah.
I should have a lot of things.
Oh, yeah, technically expires January 30 this year.
All right.
You would have it.
And so they're seeking extension for what, another 3 years?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, is there a motion to extend the order of conditions for 430 Rochdale Street for SWEB development?
Allison, so moved.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second.
That's Patrick, okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, it's a vote, okay.
Packagug, they asked to be for the next one.
Okay,
They're held up in another town.
okay, so we don't even have to vote on that, so we'll put them on for 126th. And then 190 Washington Street, Lot 3.
Yep, I have not heard from Travis, so it looks like he's held up in another town at another meeting.
All right, so why don't we continue that as well to 126th? And then last but not least is 10 Rotary Road. So members of the commission, several of us went out there a while ago, and it appeared that the construction that was being done there deviated in some respects from what was submitted to the commission. In addition, I understand that there may be a complaint filed by whom? Someone else?
Yeah, somebody that lives on the lake sent in the pictures.
Okay, so I think this is a matter that probably needs to be addressed, especially if the applicant built his project in a manner that deviated from what was submitted to us, because the bump out, as I'm calling it, is very close to the water line, probably within a couple feet, if I recall. So, and I think that is a problem. So my suggestion is that the person or whoever's going to complain, are they going to submit information to us?
So I'm waiting I have not gotten anything back from the water district.
Okay.
So I'm going to reach back out to them to see if I can get something from them.
Okay.
For that was one thing that you were waiting for.
Yes.
So I will reach back out to them tomorrow morning.
Okay.
For that. So that way we can send something to 10 Rotary.
Okay, so why don't we just carry this over to January 26th? Okay, that's good. With respect to the matters that we closed, I want to take 261 Prospect Street first. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to amend the existing order of conditions at 261 Prospect Street to allow for the creation of a proposed garage.
Okay, and I think, so Patrick, I think more specifically, your motion should include, basically, it's a substitution of the plan done by Summit Engineering dated 11/22/21. Is that correct?
This is correct.
Okay, all right. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Allison, I'll second that.
Okay, I'm going to give it to Allison. She was a split second sooner than Megan. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, it's a vote. It's unanimous. Okay. And then with respect to 63 Chestnut Avenue, I would like to have some discussion on that, if you would please. So what is the feeling of the board concerning the abutters' concerns and the concerns of his engineer?
This is Pat. I think we are well within our bounds to request additional information on drainage patterns. At the site, there's been numerous concerns from the abutters to the point where someone actually hired an engineer to represent them. I understand there's some resistance to gathering this information before it's actually mandated. However, I do believe it's well within our abilities to request additional information before we approve construction of or the digging or the fill on a site that's within the 100-foot buffer zone.
Okay. Your comments are noted. Allison, what are your thoughts?
It's a tough one. I think the issue really lies more with the property on the right, and property on the left is, I mean, I think, adding impervious conditions, is certainly still going to affect things, but, I don't know. I would like him to, use more green best management practices and, maybe pervious pavement and a rain garden and things like that would really have helped, I think. But I don't know that we can make them do anything at this point.
Well, actually, so keep in mind, I asked Mr. Fasandola if he wanted to close the public hearing, and he said he did. So we really have two options here. We can either approve the application or we can deny it. And, we don't do it very often. In fact, we rarely do it, but we have denied applications when there has been good cause. I will say this. I mean, I think it's a close question. I think. Well, let me just say this, all right, and you can take it the way you'd like. If this was a courtroom and the engineer testified in the manner that she did, I'm not sure that they would sustain their burden of proof. But this is not a courtroom. I understand that. I believe from what Mr. Mooney had to say that these drainage calculations may be required. They're bringing in an awful lot of fill. 1,100 square feet is a ton of fill. And
it was square yards.
I'm sorry.
Square yards.
You're right, square yards. So it's even more. You're right. Thank you for that, Patrick. You're absolutely right. So they're bringing in a lot of fill. They're going to need to get an earth fill permit from the selectmen, right?
Through the chair, if I may, with the town's new stormwater bylaw, they're going to be required to get earth fill permits for both 65 and 63.
Okay.
The engineering department will look at that, and they'll acknowledge that it's one larger project on two separate lots. It's going to be done together. So my thought is they'll require drainage calculations. They would not need the earth fill permit because they'll have the building permit and the earth disturbance permits through DPW. My suggestion is if the board wanted to move forward with a vote in a positive manner, they could condition that the applicant receive the earth disturbance permits prior to doing any work, and if those changes were mandated by DPW, they would have to come back before the commission for those changes.
So did everyone hear what Caleb had to say?
No.
So what Caleb had to say is that we could, because of our concerns relating to the drainage and the amount of material that's going to be brought in, we could condition approval of the order of conditions, or condition the order of conditions on approval of earth fill permits, earth disturbance permits by the engineering department of the town. So in other words, if the only way they get an earth disturbance permit is to do drainage calculations, the drainage calculations will be done, and they can't proceed with the project unless they obtain those and they do what's required by the engineering department. I mean, I think that's probably a suitable compromise. I think it addresses our concerns and the concerns of the abutters as well. What are your thoughts?
So did you say that the fill permit is, so the drainage calculations are required for the fill permit?
No, that's going to be a decision made by the engineering department, and it's more exactly called an earth disturbance permit. But they are they're bringing in, or they propose bringing in 1,100 1,100 cubic yards of fill. That's a lot of fill. I mean, they're basically going to raise, they're not really going to dig foundation holes at the existing grade. They have to bring fill in so that they can put in the foundation. And it's only going to be 4 feet. So I think that there's a recognition that they have to bring in a ton of fill to get this project built. I suspect, and also given the proximity of this project to the pond, I would imagine that that the engineering department is going to require drainage calculations to be performed. So I think what is being suggested is that we condition our order of conditions on the applicant obtaining earth disturbance permits and also complying with all, I think we can say further, complying with the requirements of the town's engineering department.
I have questions.
Okay, Michelle, go ahead.
What concerned me the most was that gentleman, I can't remember, Mario, maybe?
Mr. Mario,
saying that pond belonged to him. And where's the water going to go? If that woman put in blueberry bushes and dug a foot down and hit water, then she's right. Even if you bring in 1,100 cubic yards of fill, the water's still going to have to go somewhere. Is it going to go into his pond? And that pond is just going to get bigger. Like, it's going to grow at that point. I think that, so with this permit that you're talking about, will they be able to say, okay, yes, the water is going to go underground and actually fill that pond from the bottom up at that point, or from the top down? And what is it going to do to all of those people's yards so that we get called in later on like we did on Pioneer Ave, like we did, like on all of the other places later on?
No, your point is a good point. It was very interesting, too, to see the reaction of the applicant. I mean, he was very resistant to the idea of having to do that. And he pointed out correctly that we did approve 65 Chestnut, but again, I think that was an argument could be made that was done deliberately. I mean, when I look at this project, yeah, I see that there are 2 house lots, but they're so close together. I really think of it as sort of one larger project, and there's going to be an impact from both. Since both projects are proposed to be built at the same time, I think there's the potential for greater impact because of that construction. So,
and I'm fairly confident that they do one at a time, so that we only can choose one at a time each time.
Right. I get that too. So, well,
Chairman, this is Allison.
Sure, go ahead.
I would make a suggestion that if we have 21 days, that maybe we take the 2 weeks and think about, the conditions that we have been considering.
Okay.
And maybe we can all come back next week with any, conditions we would like to add and, put some thought into it, I guess.
That's fine. I think we can mull this over, and I have no problem with that. We will be well within our window to make a decision. So I think if you're inclined to want to think about this, obviously we can try to be creative and try to address the issues here. Then sure, I have no problem in deferring the decision on this until our meeting on January 26th. As it turns out, our agenda isn't that heavy for that evening anyway.
No, we only have...
Wait, can we pay our own environmentalists to go out there and look at it and give us an idea?
We have the right to do that. I don't know if we can get it done in 2 weeks. Well, wait a second. I take that back. We've closed the public hearing, so I don't think we can. I don't think we can. All right. Is there a consensus among the commission that we defer to making a decision on this until the 26th?
This is Pat. I agree with that.
Okay. Megan?
I do too.
Michelle is too. Megan, do you agree?
I agree.
Catherine, do you concur, Catherine?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good idea.
Okay, and Allison, you're on board, so that's what we'll do. We'll mull this over, contemplate the situation, and we will come back further enlightened on January 26th.
Through the chair, if I may, real quickly.
Please.
It may benefit the commissioners to visit the DPW stormwater page and just see what some of the requirements are for the earth disturbance permits that will be required.
Sure.
That may help them with their decision.
That is a great idea. Thank you. Okay. So, folks, we have snow on the ground. My hope is that we won't be getting any more. We do have certain requests for certificates of compliance, which we have to check out. Actually, we've got 3, 23 Brook Street and then Whitman Bailey Drive. I was thinking it might actually be beneficial to contact Art Allen at Ecotech and have him see if he would meet us out there to go over the certificates of compliance for Whitman Bailey Drive. Why don't we do this? Why don't we monitor the weather conditions, see what would be a good time to go out there. I'm thinking this Saturday is not going to be good. For one thing, I have conflicts and I can't make it out on Saturday, but my hope is that we can do it perhaps the following Saturday, which would be the 22nd. The 22nd. So I'll be in touch regarding maybe any site walks on the 22nd, keeping in mind that between now and then we might get a foot of snow, hoping that we won't. And is there any other business?
I'm going to give you, this is Michelle. So, I currently have COVID.
Well, I'm glad you didn't come here today.
Right.
I'm sorry you don't feel well.
Thank you. I'm actually, on the positive note, for me, luckily, it was more like a cold. So, which is good news, but I'm boosted and all that good stuff. So, but I was supposed to be going to Jamaica next week. So I was supposed to be leaving next Sunday.
Uh-huh.
So with any luck at all, I won't be at next week's meeting. The
26th?
Next meeting.
The 26th.
And I will be around on Saturday because I'm actually leaving for Maine. But
okay.
If I'm still testing positive, unfortunately, I will be here. So just a heads up. I will keep you posted, Mike, and tell you how I'm doing. So
well, I
won't be leave.
I hope you get better soon, and I hope you can make your trip to Jamaica.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Well, if you don't go, Michelle, have you gotten a copy of these examples of conditions that I had presented?
Actually, to leave it so I can get back into the country if I'm testing positive. I can't get out of the country if I'm testing positive.
Okay. I think Allison was proposing some reading, some beach reading for you, but I don't know that you necessarily.
No, I did not.
You know, if while you were on your break, if you had received, we got when I took one of those classes at MHCC, there was a long list of example conditions that we're going to possibly add to our list.
I think Ginger had given that to me a long time ago, but if you would like to resend that to me, I would be more than happy to, because I have absolutely no idea where I put it in my whirlwind of stuff. So if you want to...
It's helpful to just help, sort of remember certain things that are options.
Fantastic, yeah.
So Allison, to your point, we will take up the remainder of those. I just don't know when. My hunch is that, generally speaking, when it gets cold and snowy, we don't have as many applications. So we will take it up at one of our meetings, probably in February.
Yeah, no rush.
Okay, yep. Excellent. All right, if there's no other business, is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Patrick. Is there a second?
I will second that. That's Catherine.
Thank you, Catherine. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right, everyone. It's a vote. I wish you all well. Stay healthy. avoid Michelle while she's contagious, and we'll see you at our next meeting on the 26th. And again, I will contact you regarding a possible site walk the Saturday before the 26th meeting. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.